Welcome to the Heritage Hunters Podcast with Dawn Piercy and the Heritage Huntress, where we are climbing trees and turning leaves. Grab your saucers. We've got tea and it's about to be spilled. Welcome back to the Heritage Hunters Podcast. We're picking up where we left off. Don't lose your heads and grab a saucer. We've got tea. So, yeah, most definitely the Tower of London and all of that. And there's some books. We've got Alison Ware has a book, Elizabeth of York, the first Tudor queen. Nancy L. Lenz Harvey has Elizabeth of York, the mother of Henry VIII. J. L. Lane Smith, The Last Medieval Queens, English Queenship. Arlene Naylor Okerlund, Elizabeth of York. And those are the books that are attached with those. So, there is some in 1530 to 1535. This is something different. Early adulthood and family conflicts at 1530. No, this is for Lady Elizabeth Grey. 1530 was the death of her father, Thomas Grey, the second Marquis of Dorset. And then the early 1530s, her mother, Margaret Wotton, had public disputes with her son, Henry Grey, over finances and marriage contracts regarding Jane Grey. And Henry Grey was executed too. So there was now in 1538, Elizabeth married Thomas Audley, the first Baron Audley of Walden, Lord Chancellor under Henry VIII, a union likely arranged to favor Audley's loyalty, right? So this marriage was created. It created a financial and social burden for her mother-in-law, who was known to complain about the cost. And then in 1540 was the birth of Margaret Audley. And the rise of the Grey family from 1540s to the 1540s to the 1550s, the rise of the Grey family. And that is 1547 to 1550 is when Elizabeth Grey, Lady Elizabeth Grey's brother, so many Elizabeth Greys and Plantagenets, it's so easy to get them mixed up. So this is why I say Grey, when I do, because it is very easy to get them mixed up, and I don't want you to. So that's in 1547 is when he started to rise to the Marquess and later Duke of Suffolk. And then in 1553, that's when Henry's daughter, Lady Jane Grey, was proclaimed queen for 9 days following Edward VI's death, and Elizabeth was actually her aunt. And then there was the downfall of the Greys in 1554, the execution of both Henry Grey and Lady Jane Grey following their roles in Wyatt's rebellion and the succession crisis. So Elizabeth was survived by her family status, but her family status was significantly damaged, and they ended up coming to America. Okay. My line did, at least. Now, I know that there are thousands of us. And when I say thousands, I mean, like, there is something called, every year, it is, they have a big family history course in Roots Tech. So it's called Roots Tech. It's through Family Search. You got Roots, and I think it was like in Roots Tech 2023 or something. I had 91,000 cousins online registered at the same place at the same time. 91,000. 91,000. Who am I? I feel like a small freaking pea. I'm just being honest, okay? There are so many of us. And so we came to America. You've got the 600 royal descendants, okay, that are immigrants, 600 royal descendant immigrants. I went and touched that book with my bare hands. I got to touch the book. I got to touch the book. I got to touch the book. I'm going to be sharing pictures, so please check it out. The pictures are going to be in the slideshow beneath the interview and beneath everything that I'm talking about. So, after getting back to that and the family connections, I'm going to be putting all the sources once again. And now I want to get into Margaret Pole. I want to get into Margaret Pole. Oh, first, before I do that, Thomas Howard Forsyth of Norfolk. Okay, 16th century Elizabethan attire. He was, well, he was Order of the Garter, Knights Garter. He did a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Anyways, okay, Margaret Pole. Margaret Pole was born in 1473. She died in 1541. This is one that really choked me up, okay? Really choked me up. She was born August 14th, 1473 in Farley Hungerford Castle in Somerset, England. Her parents were George Plantagenet, the first Duke of Clarence, brother to Edward IV and Richard III. Listen to that again. Her uncles were Edward IV and Richard III. So it all ties right into, again, with the whole family that we're talking about, the Plantagenets. So her mother was Elizabeth Neville and daughter of Warwick the Kingmaker, another ancestor of mine. Surprise! She's sibling to Edward Plantagenet, Earl of Warwick, who was executed in 1499. She had a lot of early hardship and noble lineage. She was one of the last Plantagenets and a very close kin to all the royal houses. She lived through her father's execution in 1478 and her brother's death in 1499, and yet survived due to Henry VII's mercy. But that didn't last long, did it? Marriage and children. She married Sir Richard Pole around 1491, aligning her with Henry VII's circle, which would come to be her end. Her children were Henry Pole, the first Baron of Montagu, and he was executed in 1539. Arthur Pole, her son, courtier, he died before 1532. Ursula Pole, she was born in 1504, and she later became Baroness Stafford, and she stayed true to the Tudor line. She would not defy it, even after her mother's death. Reginald Pole was the last Catholic Archbishop of Canterbury, and Geoffrey Pole was involved in treason accusations. Now, the court influence and wealth she was restored as Countess of Salisbury in 1512, received back her family lands and her title. She held a prestigious role as lady governess to Princess Mary, later Mary the First Tudor, that executed Lady Jane Grey. Her fall from grace and execution, Reginald's opposition to Henry VIII's religious reforms, and Geoffrey's suspected treason led to Margaret's downfall. Now, attained in May 1539, she was imprisoned until her beheading at the Tower of the 27th of May, 1541. Her execution was so brutal, it took multiple strokes. And if you have children, I recommend them not hearing this. It took multiple strokes to sever her head. Now, she was beatified as a martyr by Pope Leo VIII in 1886. her daughter Ursula Pole, my grandma, one of my great grandmothers. I'm from more than one of her kids by the grace of God somehow, right? On maternal and paternal, and that's a whole nother story. I found out my parents are fourth cousins. Surprise! Okay, so Ursula Pole was born in 1504, and she passed away in 1570. She married Henry Stafford, the first Baron Stafford, in April 1518, which was the son of Eleanor Percy. So this is where my Percy side comes in on my mom's side. Percy, yeah. So, okay, so they had 14 frickin' children. 14 children. That's a lot of frickin' kids. A few of them that are noted, okay, there's Dorothy Stafford, which was the mistress of the robes to Elizabeth I. Thomas Stafford, which was executed for treason. Go figure. And Edward Stafford, the third Baron Stafford, and she survived the family downfall of her brother and her mother were executed, but Ursula and her husband remained alive. Thank you. By the grace of God, I am here today. Geoffrey Pole, 1504 to 1558, served as Justice of the Peace and was MP for Wilton. He was suspected in early 1530s for corresponding with Cardinal Reginald about opposing the king's policies. I will put those book references and all, source references, I will add them for you. So the whole summary of the turmoil on Margaret Pole symbolized the tragic legacy of the Plantagenets, number one, from royal heights as the Plantagenet scion to political prisoner under Henry VIII. Thanks, Grunkle. She saw her sons executed, or exiled, and herself beheaded. So Ursula navigated the dangerous times and she preserved the family line through her children. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's why I probably have so many cousins. So I will put all the references that what I have on her children through Ursula, the related historical events and figures, the treason charges, and Henry VIII's suppression, the Exeter Conspiracy, 1538, the plot used to justify the executions of Henry Pole and others, the Tower of London executions, Margaret Pole's executions, which was brutal and quite irregular, the beatification and the legacy from Pope Leo VIII, who beatified her in 1886 for dying in defense of the Catholic faith. And that is what I have on Margaret and Ursula Pole and the Pole family and the relation there. Now, other lines that I want to go over as the Plantagenet family overview is there are some other figures that I have not mentioned yet. Okay, so we've got, and I want to talk about Wyatt's rebellion a little bit more because and even though I have not mentioned Wyatt, Thomas Wyatt the Younger, I should, because this had a lot to do with the people that were like literally dying at the time, right? So Sir Thomas, and he is also an ancestor, Sir Thomas Wyatt the Elder was the father of Thomas Wyatt the Younger, of course. Now, Sir Thomas Wyatt the Elder was born in 1503. He died in 1542, a famous poet and a diplomat credited with introducing the sonnet to English literature. He had an uneasy relationship with Henry VIII's court, but was close enough to witness Anne Boleyn's rise and fall. He was imprisoned, but he survived, and he died shortly after his release because he was weakened by illness and court stress. His mother was named Elizabeth Brooke. And the reason I'm saying these names is because nobody knows these names. Have you heard these names? No, but they're like key figures. So I think they should be spoken on and not forgotten, at least. She was from a noble family. She separated from Sir Thomas Wyatt the Elder, but her marriage was tumultuous, largely due to Thomas Wyatt the Elder's infidelities. I'm going to be non-biased, but I want to say man whore.